Tessa Callahan had exactly 20 minutes to grab a pair of black heels, a blouse that didn't scream clearance rack, and make it to her job interview, so of course she tripped over a mannequin's foot and went flying into the arms of a stranger. A very solid, very warm, very expensive-smelling stranger. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she started, trying to regain her balance, but the man's hands remained gently wrapped around her arms, steadying her. "You okay?" His voice was low, calm, and definitely not annoyed like she expected. Tessa looked up and immediately forgot how to breathe. The man was tall, maybe 6'3", with sharp cheekbones, a strong jawline, and dark hair that looked effortless in a way that took effort. He wore a tailored navy suit, a crisp white shirt, no tie. He looked like money. Not in a flashy way. In a "this suit costs more than my rent" kind of way. "I am fine. I just didn't see the stupid mannequin," Tessa muttered, trying to laugh it off as her cheeks burned. She stepped back quickly, brushing invisible lint off her thrifted blazer like it was some kind of shield. "I think it's their fault, not yours. They've got these things standing in the middle of the aisle like it's a trap," he said, his mouth twitching like he was holding back a smile. She gave a tight nod, ready to bolt. "Thanks for the save. I gotta run." But he didn't move out of her way. "You sure you're okay? You looked like you were in a rush." "I am. I've got an interview in 15 minutes. And I still don't have shoes or a top that doesn't scream, desperate job seeker." She winced. Why did she say that out loud? The man tilted his head slightly. "What's the job?" "Receptionist. At a law firm uptown." He nodded, then glanced over her shoulder. "There's a sales associate near the escalator. Tell her Tristan D'Amico said to help you tell her to charge it to my account." Her jaw dropped. "Wait. What? No. You don't even know me." He shrugged like it was nothing. "You almost broke your neck in front of me. Let me do something nice." "Are you serious right now?" "Completely. Go. You'll be late." She blinked. "I can't accept, then consider it a loan. You can pay me back if you get the job." Tessa stared at him. "You're not going to give me your number, are you?" He grinned. "Ask for me at the front desk. I'm here most days. Or just trip again. I'll find you." That made her laugh. A real one this time, and she found herself nodding. "Fine. But I'm paying you back." "Looking forward to it, Tessa Callahan." Her heart skipped. "I didn't tell you my name." He winked. "You dropped your resume." 3 hours later, Tessa sat outside a midtown cafe, still in disbelief. She'd nailed the interview. The new silk blouse and leather heels might have helped, but it was more than that. She felt like someone had finally seen her, really seen her, and now she couldn't stop thinking about the man who caught her. Tristan D'Amico. The name echoed in her brain like a bell she couldn't unring. Out of curiosity and maybe a little desperation, she Googled him on her phone. Her jaw nearly hit the sidewalk. Tristan D'Amico wasn't just some rich guy. He was the CEO of D'Amico Holdings. Net worth estimated over 10 billion. Billion with a B. Real estate, tech startups, luxury brands. Every article had a photo of him looking like he stepped off the cover of GQ. And he'd bought her a $480 blouse like it was a bottle of water. She nearly choked on her coffee. "Nope," she muttered to herself. Absolutely not getting involved in billionaire drama. Except she did go back. 2 days later, blouse dry cleaned and folded in tissue paper, she walked back into the department store. The same saleswoman spotted her. "I'm here to return this. I told him I'd pay him back." The woman smiled. "You're the girl who tripped, aren't you?" Tessa blinked. "Is that a thing now? He mentioned you. Said to send you up to his office if you came back." Tessa's stomach flipped. "Wait, he works here? Top floor. Elevators behind cosmetics." She thought about running. She really did. But instead, she took the elevator. The office was sleek, modern, and intimidating. Glass walls, chrome furniture, and a skyline view that made her forget to breathe. And there he was, Tristan, behind a giant black marble desk, sleeves rolled to his elbows, phone in one hand, pen in the other. He looked up the second she walked in. Tessa. He stood immediately. Didn't think I'd actually see you again. I said I'd return the blouse, she said, holding up the tissue-wrapped parcel. He motioned to the chair across from him. Sit. You're not here for the blouse. She hesitated, then Saturday fine. I guess I wanted to say thank you. Again. You're welcome. Did you get the job? She smiled. I did. His grin widened. Then you owe me dinner. Her eyes widened. Excuse me? You said you'd pay me back. I'm cashing in. Tessa opened her mouth, then closed it again. Is this some kind of billionaire test? See if the peasant girl will entertain you for a night. He leaned forward, elbows on the desk. No games. I like you. You're real. And you didn't trip on purpose, which is a first. She laughed again, and it surprised her how easy it felt. How safe. Okay, she said slowly. One dinner. But I'm not sleeping with you. Tristan's eyes twinkled. That's fair. I'll behave. He didn't just take her to dinner. He picked her up in a black town car, held the door open, and brought her to a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. There were strings of lights, soft jazz playing, and a table already waiting with 2 glasses of wine. This is a lot, she said, sliding into her chair. Tristan shrugged. I don't do halfway. They talked for hours. About everything. Her degree in communications that she never got to use. His childhood in Boston. Her love for old movies. His obsession with vintage watches. She laughed more than she had in months. At the end of the night, he walked her to her building. No driver. Just them. At her door, she turned to him. This was really nice. I want to see you again. Why me? His voice was soft. Because you don't care about the money. And because when you fell, you looked up at me like I mattered. Her heart thudded. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she leaned up and kissed him before she could lose her nerve. It was short, sweet, real. When she pulled back, he whispered, I'm already in trouble, aren't I? Tessa smiled. Yeah, you are. And she walked inside, heart pounding, already knowing this wasn't just dinner. This was the beginning of something. Something real. The second time Tessa saw him, he was leaning against the railing outside her new office building, sunglasses on, one hand tucked casually into the pocket of a charcoal overcoat. He looked like he belonged on a billboard. She nearly tripped again. I thought CEOs didn't loiter, she said as she approached, clutching her coat tighter against the wind. Tristan turned his head, his expression unreadable behind the lenses. I had a meeting nearby. Figured I'd take a walk. She raised an eyebrow. Funny. You don't strike me as the type who walks anywhere. He pushed off the railing and fell into step beside her. You'd be surprised. There's something calming about being anonymous for a few blocks. Tessa glanced at him. You? Anonymous? Highly doubtful. He took off his sunglasses then, and his eyes met hers. With the right coat and no entourage, I blend just fine. They walked in silence for a minute as traffic hummed nearby. She stopped at a corner. Why are you really here? Tristan's voice was quieter when he answered. I wanted to see if the first dinner was a fluke. She blinked. A fluke? That kind of connection doesn't happen often. I needed to know if it was real. Tessa let that hang between them, unsure how to respond. Her whole life had been about avoiding risks. But now this man with his tailored coat and guarded eyes was saying things that felt bigger than her world. I have a lunch break, she murmured. 1 hour. His smile was barely there. That's all I need. They sat in a quiet cafe tucked between a bookstore and a florist. No white tablecloths or skyline views this time, just a mismatched pair of mugs and the scent of cinnamon from the pastries behind the counter. Tessa stirred her tea, watching the steam rise. You said you blend in, but you don't really, do you? You walk into a room and everything shifts. Tristan looked at her, his tone thoughtful. That used to bother me. Now I just try to use it carefully. Is that why you dress like a human vault? He laughed, the sound low and rough. Security through tailoring? Something like that. His expression turned serious then. You're different from anyone I've met, Tessa. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or a warning. It's both. She leaned back. You're used to women chasing your money. I'm not going to do that. I know. So what do you want from me? I want to know who you are when you're not trying so hard to keep people away. That hit deeper than she expected. She looked down, tracing the rim of her mug. I used to be someone who believed in big things. But life doesn't always care about your plans. Tristan nodded. Tell me one of the big things. She hesitated. I wanted to start a nonprofit. Help kids who aged out of foster care. I was in the system. It never really leaves you. He didn't look away. What stopped you? Rent. Food. Survival. The usual. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. You still want it? Wanting doesn't pay for permits or staff or even a website. Tell me more about it. The idea. She narrowed her eyes. Why? Because I listen when someone says something that matters. His sincerity was disarming. But she wasn't ready to hand over her dreams like a business plan. I don't want a handout. I'm not offering one, he said. I'm offering curiosity. Later, when they stepped outside, the wind had picked up. He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear without thinking. It was the kind of touch that felt like it carried weight. She looked up at him. You're dangerous, you know that? I've been told, he replied softly. But only when I care. That scared her more than anything. The next few days passed in a blur. Work, errands, late nights catching up on bills. But Tristan didn't disappear again. He sent a bouquet to her desk, wildflowers, not roses, with a note folded inside. No message. Just a sketch of a coffee mug with a cinnamon stick drawn in blue ink. She found herself smiling like an idiot in the middle of her office. Then came the invitation. A thick cream envelope delivered by hand, addressed in calligraphy. What is this? She asked aloud, even though she was alone in her apartment. Inside was a single card, charity gala. Friday, 7 o'clock. Dress provided. Driver will wait downstairs at 6. She stared at it for a long time before opening the garment bag hanging on her closet door. The dress inside was unlike anything she'd worn. Midnight blue silk, subtle shimmer off the shoulder sleeves. The tag still attached made her stomach drop. It cost more than her last 2 months' rent. She opened her phone, hesitated, then called the number on the card. A woman answered, crisp and efficient. Miss Callahan? Yes. This dress, it's too much. I can't wear this. The woman didn't miss a beat. Mr. D'Amico insisted. He said to tell you it's a gift, not a statement. Tessa closed her eyes. He doesn't understand what a statement this is. A Friday came anyway. And at 6 sharp, the car was waiting. The driver opened the door with a nod and she slipped inside, her heart thundering in her chest. When she stepped out in front of the venue, the lights nearly blinded her. Paparazzi. Cameras. A red carpet. Tessa froze. Then, as if on cue, Tristan appeared. He walked toward her, dressed in a black tuxedo that made him look like the night itself. When he reached her, he offered his arm. You didn't tell me there'd be cameras. I didn't want to give you time to say no. Tristan, you look like you belong here. She shook her head. I don't. You do now. She took his arm, heart pounding, and they stepped into the blaze of lights together. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel invisible. She felt seen. Wanted. Maybe even more than that. But she also knew something else buried beneath the glamour and the silk. This man could ruin her. And she was already halfway gone. Tessa hadn't expected to see a familiar face at the gala, much less one from a life she'd all but buried. Is that, she whispered as she and Tristan stepped into the ballroom. Someone you know? He asked, following her gaze. She nodded once, her jaw tight. Elliot Granger. He was my foster caseworker. Years ago. Tristan didn't press, but his eyes lingered on her a second longer than necessary. Do you want to leave? No, she said, straightening her spine. I'm not 13 anymore. I don't run. The ballroom was vast, glittering with chandeliers and filled with people whose names she only knew from headlines. Musicians played a low, elegant version of something jazzy near the stage. Waiters weaved through the crowd with trays of champagne, flutes, and hors d'oeuvres she couldn't name. The floor beneath her heels felt like glass. Stay close, she murmured. Tristan didn't hesitate. Always. They moved together like they'd practiced it, him steering with gentle pressure at the small of her back, her glancing only once at her reflection in the mirrored wall to check if she still looked like she belonged. She did. Somehow. At the far end of the ballroom, a woman with silver hair and a diamond collar necklace approached them. Tessa, this is Camille Laurent, Tristan said. She chairs the foundation board. I heard we had a new guest in our circle, Camille said, eyeing Tessa with polite interest. Tristan rarely brings anyone. Tessa extended a hand. It's lovely to meet you. Camille shook it, then turned to Tristan. She's poised. I approve. Tessa blinked as the woman drifted off. Is that a thing? Getting approved? In this world? Tristan murmured, accepting 2 glasses from a passing tray and handing her one. It's a sport. You didn't tell me I'd be interviewed all night. You're not. You're being envied. She laughed once beneath her breath. That's impossible. He leaned closer, voice low. You walk into a room and I forget who I'm supposed to impress. Before she could respond, someone clinked a spoon against a glass and the music faded. A man in a tuxedo stepped onto the stage to speak about the charity's initiatives. Tristan's hand remained at her back, light but grounding. When the applause died down, an auction began. Tessa watched in stunned silence as people raised paddles for a weekend in Monaco, a signed sculpture, a yacht charter. Each bid was more surreal than the last. Then came the final item. A private dinner with Tristan D'Amico, to be hosted at his estate in the Hamptons. She turned to him sharply. You're auctioning yourself? He kept his eyes on the stage. It's tradition. The last bidder usually donates it back to the foundation. The bidding started. One woman in red lifted her paddle. Another near the front countered. A third, older, with a glint in her eye, raised hers higher. Tessa felt a strange tightness in her chest. You okay? Tristan asked. I didn't realize I'd be watching people try to buy time with you. He met her gaze, serious now. It's symbolic. Is it? Before he could answer, a voice from the side called out a number that made the entire room still. Elliot Granger. I'll take the dinner, he said, his voice loud, unmistakable. And I'd like to use it immediately. Gasps and laughter followed, but Tristan's expression didn't shift. I accept, he said calmly. Name the time. Now, Elliot said. Right now. Tessa couldn't breathe. Tristan turned to her, his voice barely audible to anyone else. Do you want to leave? She shook her head. I want to know why he's doing this. Tristan nodded once and walked toward the stage, not saying another word. The crowd parted as he went, and Elliot followed him into a side corridor. Tessa hesitated for only a moment before slipping after them. She found them in a quieter hall near the kitchen entrance, away from the glitter and lights. What the hell are you doing, Elliot? She asked before either man could speak. He turned slowly. You've grown up. Don't dodge me. I recognized you earlier. I couldn't believe it. You used to sit on my office floor and draw houses with front porches. She crossed her arms. That was a long time ago. What do you want? I run a program now. Independent living support for kids who aged out. I wanted to ask for help. Tristan raised a brow. So you bought a dinner to pitch a proposal? I didn't know how else to get your attention, Elliot admitted. Your assistant never returns my calls. Tessa blinked. You could have sent an email. I did. 27 of them. Tristan's tone was quiet. We never received anything. Your gatekeepers are very good, Elliot said dryly. But I remembered Tessa. She always said if she ever got out, she'd find a way to fix what broke her. Tessa looked away, throat tight. That was before. Maybe, Elliot said. But if you're standing next to him now, maybe it's time. Tristan looked between them both. Send the proposal to me directly. Use Tessa's contact. I'll read it personally. Elliot nodded once. Thank you. As he walked away, Tessa leaned against the wall, suddenly overwhelmed. Tristan stepped in front of her. Talk to me. I didn't come here looking for any of this. He searched her face. Is it too much? She met his eyes. It's not that. It's just, I don't know how to be this version of myself. The one who gets invited to galas and used as a bargaining chip. You're not a chip, he said. You're the only person in that room who made me feel human tonight. She let out a shaky breath. You make it look easy. It's not. But with you, it's worth the effort. That night, he didn't take her home in a town car. They walked the 30 blocks back to her building in silence, her heels in her hand, his jacket over her shoulders. At her door, she turned to face him. "I'm scared," she said. "This thing with you. It feels like a free fall." He stepped closer. "Then fall with me." She didn't answer. She didn't have to. She kissed him like the world might split open at their feet. And for one terrifying, beautiful moment, she let go. The first time Tessa stood barefoot in Tristan's penthouse, she felt like she was trespassing in someone else's dream. The elevator had opened directly into his living room, no hallway, no lobby. Just glass walls revealing the skyline in every direction, soft amber lights embedded in the ceiling, and floors so polished they reflected the chandelier like rippled water. Tristan had tossed his keys onto a marble tray near the entrance and gestured for her to come in like it was the most natural thing in the world. She'd whispered, "This place is outrageous," and he'd just looked at her like she was the only thing worth noticing in the entire city. That was weeks ago. Now, she sat curled on his velvet sofa, hair damp from the rain, while Tristan stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, phone pressed to his ear, voice low and clipped. "No, I don't care what the board says. If they want to pull out of the youth housing deal, they can do it without my money. I'm not negotiating on this." He ended the call and turned toward her, his jaw tight. "You burned a bridge," she said softly. "Then I'll build another one," he replied, walking toward her. "I'm not backing out of the initiative because a few men with country club memberships are uncomfortable with the idea of housing kids no one else wants." She blinked. "So you're really doing it? You're funding Elliot's program?" "I'm expanding it. His model works. It just needs backing." She stood, wrapping her arms around herself. "You're risking your reputation for something that doesn't profit you." Tristan reached for her hand. "It's not a risk if I believe in it." For a moment, she said nothing. "Then I told my boss I need time off." His brow lifted. "Are you okay?" "I want to help. With the program. This thing we're building, it matters. I want to be more than someone you bring to parties." He stepped forward, gently placing his hands on her waist. "You already are. I want to lead part of it. The mentorship track. I know what it's like to be 17 and alone." He nodded without hesitation. "Then we'll do it together." She exhaled slowly. "I'm scared. I've never built anything real before." His voice was quiet. "Then let this be the first." They spent the next month buried in planning sessions. Tessa worked with Elliot to design the mentorship curriculum while Tristan handled the legal and financial structure. They toured derelict buildings together, speaking with contractors and youth advocates. Tessa saw a new side of him, a man who didn't just sign checks but asked questions, demanded answers, and refused shortcuts. One afternoon, while reviewing site permits at a converted warehouse in Queens, Tessa leaned against a rusted beam and watched him speak to the architect. "You're relentless," she said when he rejoined her. "Only when something's worth it. I never imagined I'd be here. Doing this. With you." Tristan looked at her, serious. "You changed my life, Tessa." She laughed once. "I tripped into your arms. And nothing's been the same since." That night, they returned to his penthouse. She cooked badly and he pretended not to notice. They danced in the kitchen to an old jazz record, her feet on his, her laughter echoing off the glass. When the city lights glowed against the windows, he pulled her close and kissed her like a man who'd waited his whole life to find home. The next morning, Tessa woke to find a small box on her pillow. Inside was a silver key on a delicate chain. She looked over at him, still half asleep. "What's this?" "My way of asking you to stay." She traced the key with her fingers. "I thought you didn't do halfway." He opened his eyes. "I don't." She wore the necklace every day after that. Weeks passed and the project neared launch. The press caught wind of it, Billionaire Fund's groundbreaking youth initiative, and suddenly, Tessa's name was appearing in articles beside his. For the first time, it didn't feel like she was standing in someone else's life. It felt like she'd built her own. One evening, after a long meeting with city officials, Tristan asked her to accompany him to a private event. She hesitated, exhausted, in jeans, hair pulled into a messy bun, but he insisted. "It's not formal," he promised. "Just trust me." They drove in silence until the car pulled into a quiet street lined with trees. Tessa frowned. "This isn't a venue." No, he said, stepping out and motioning for her to follow. She did and stopped short. Before them stood a brownstone. Not flashy, not huge, but warm, with ivy creeping along the railings and a red door that looked like it belonged in a children's book. What is this? He handed her a folded paper. She opened it and gasped. The deed. In her name. Tristan, it's a pilot home for the program. Transitional space for women aging out of the system. Safe, stable, and run by someone who knows what they need. Her voice trembled. You bought this for the program? I bought this for you to lead it. She stared at him, overwhelmed. You don't have to do all this. I know. His eyes were steady. But I want to. I love you, Tessa. The words fell between them like something sacred. She stepped forward, tears in her eyes. You do. I've loved you since the moment you handed me back that blouse like it was a battle flag. She laughed through her tears. I love you too. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like he never wanted to let go. They stood there on the sidewalk, beneath the amber glow of a street lamp, wrapped in something deeper than promises. Months later, the brownstone opened as the first of 5 homes under the Callahan initiative, with Tessa at its helm. Tristan remained by her side not as a benefactor but as a partner. They worked. They stumbled. They celebrated. And one spring night, as cherry blossoms rained down in the city park where they first shared a kiss, Tristan got down on one knee and opened a ring box, the skyline behind him. Tessa didn't need to look at the diamond. She just whispered yes and threw her arms around him. He kissed her like she was the only truth he'd ever known. And this time she didn't fall. She chose. The morning of their wedding arrived with a sky so clear it felt like the universe had paused for them. Tessa stood on the balcony of a coastal villa in the south of Italy, staring out at the sunlit cliffs and the glittering sea beyond. The breeze toyed with the hem of her robe and carried the scent of lemon trees and salt. Bells rang faintly from a distant village church, and somewhere below, staff were setting up the final touches of the ceremony space. White blooms, soft music, tables dressed in linen. Behind her, Camille Laurent fastened the last pearl into her hair. You were always going to do something extraordinary, Camille said. You just didn't know it yet. Tessa smiled at her reflection in the mirror. When I met Tristan, I thought he was going to be a detour, and he turned out to be your destination. The dress, simple and elegant, hung beside the door. No frills, just silk that moved like water and a train that whispered across the floor. Downstairs, Tristan adjusted his cufflinks in a quiet study that opened onto the terrace. His brother Luca handed him a small velvet box. You're giving her a second ring? Luca asked. Tristan opened the lid. Inside was a gold band etched with a single word, home. She gave that to me before she ever said she loved me. I just didn't realize it then. Luca clapped him on the shoulder. You're ready. I've never been more certain of anything. The ceremony was held in the garden overlooking the cliffs. Chairs faced the sea, and guests from across the world, friends, family, and every teen now thriving in the Callahan initiative filled the space with warmth. As soon as Tessa stepped through the archway, everything else faded. The breeze caught her veil, and for a moment she looked like she'd been painted into the sky. Tristan's breath caught. He hadn't seen the dress. Hadn't needed to. She could have walked down in bare feet and a t-shirt and still been the most beautiful thing he'd ever laid eyes on. When she reached him, her hand slid into his without hesitation. The officiant's words were brief, but Tessa barely heard them. Her heart was too loud in her chest. Do you promise to build the world together? The officiant asked. I do, she said, I's never leaving Tristan's. To never let fear make your choices again? I do. To carry each other's burdens even when they're heavy? I do. Tristan's voice didn't waver once. I do. I always will. They didn't wait for permission. Their kiss was met with cheers and clapping from every direction. Afterward, the reception spilled into twilight. Lanterns glowed from olive trees, long tables filled with food stretched across the garden, and music played well into the night. Tessa danced barefoot on the grass, her heels abandoned. Tristan spun her once, then pulled her close. He whispered against her hair, You're not the girl who tripped anymore. She looked up at him. No. I'm the woman who chose to fall. You saved me just as much as I saved you. They didn't leave for a honeymoon right away. The brownstone back in New York had become more than a project. It was a home for 10 young women now, each one thriving. Tessa couldn't step away just yet. Weeks later, on a quiet Saturday morning, they sat on the rooftop of their city apartment with coffee mugs in hand and a dog curled at their feet, a rescue mutt with 2 long legs and an unfortunate name they refused to change, Pickle. Tessa reached for a folder as she leaned into Tristan's side. This came in yesterday. He glanced at the tab. What is it? Final plans. We're opening the second home next spring. In Chicago. He kissed her temple. You'll need a director. I was hoping you'd help me interview candidates. Done. But only if we can get that same architect. The one who used reclaimed brick. She grinned. You're such a design snob. You keep me grounded. She set the folder down. There's something else. He turned to her fully. What is it? She took a breath. I'm pregnant. Silence stretched between them for one heartbeat. Then another. His eyes filled so quickly she barely saw the moment it happened. One blink and they were shining. How he rasped. She laughed through her tears. The usual way. He wrapped his arms around her so tightly she felt like she might never breathe again, and she didn't want to. I didn't know I could want this much, he whispered. Not until you. They stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in morning light and the soft sounds of the city waking around them. 3 years later, the Callahan initiative had expanded to 6 cities. Tessa stood at the ribbon cutting of the 7th home, this one in Seattle, with a little boy clinging to her leg and another baby strapped to her chest. Tristan stood beside her, holding her hand before she stepped up to speak. I used to think love was something that happened to other people, she told the crowd. Something reserved for the lucky. But love isn't luck. It's a choice. And every day I choose this life. I choose these kids. I choose the man who helped me build something from nothing. The applause was thunderous, but it was the way Tristan looked at her that made her heart feel full. That night, as they watched the kids play in the new courtyard, he leaned over and whispered, Still think you don't belong in my world? She shook her head. We made our own world. They didn't live in the penthouse anymore. They'd moved into a brownstone of their own, one with a red door, a swing on the porch, and a little plaque by the steps that read, Built from the fall. It wasn't perfect. There were sleepless nights, teething babies, spreadsheets that didn't balance, and the occasional disagreement over whose turn it was to take out the trash. But there was also laughter echoing down hallways, bedtime stories whispered in the dark, and kisses stolen between conference calls. And above all else, love. Endless. Fierce. Real. The kind of love that had nothing to do with money or fate or fairy tales. The kind they built with their own hands. Together. Forever.